I don't know, it's got me emotional talking about it. That was to me, that was the most meaningful fight I've ever had. So my most meaningful fight to me would have to be my very first fight ever in the UFC. One, I was coming over from the WC. I got called up, if you would say, like if you were on a AAA team. I got from the WC, was kind of like the major league, and I got called up. Um, Dana like tripled my money because I took it on short notice. But the most important significance to me was my grandpa was on his deathbed, and he told me if I ever make it, I'm gonna make it to UFC. He's gonna stay alive till I did.
Donald, he spent a very long time with us. He was extremely difficult, and his parents just sort of gave up. My husband loved him so much, and he goes, "No, he's going to be somebody." He goes, "He just needs to know that we're never going to throw him away." And then his grandfather got really sick, cancer, and they gave him just a few months to live. And he said to me, "Oh, I'm going to live longer than a few months." He goes, "I'm going to live until that boy steps into the UFC cage."
And I got the call when I was in the hospital, in the room, talking to him, just me and him. Ask him all the questions, all the secrets to life. Anything I could think of, I would ask him, like if he was scared and what he had done. Would he have dated more women? Would he, what would he have? Just his out. This is the craziest question I could ever think of someone who's about to die. And I got the call, and he's like, "Son, you go do that. Like, don't worry about me." And it was hard. And I literally had to leave the hospital there and take off and go into training. And Leonard FaceTimed my grandpa on his deathbed as I was walking out.
Leonard Garcia, have you ever met Leonard Garcia? You have to. Coolest. He was a UFC fighter, and he had nothing. He couldn't grapple. He couldn't do anything, but he had the world's greatest overhand right. And if he could get that overhand right before the fight got too far along, he would win.
It's cool. And I made that walk. They introduced me, and I looked back at Leonard, and he just like had this like, fuck. And I knew.
When he stepped into the UFC ring, I told Grandpa, I go, "He's in the ring," and Grandpa died. So he kept him alive for 2 more years because he said, "I'm not dying till that boy gets where he's supposed to be." And of course, he ended up to be a really good fighter and a really good man and a really good dad.
It was cool. He made it to the fight, like he promised me he would. So I won, hand up. I don't know. It's got me emotional talking about it. That was, to me, that was the most meaningful fight I've ever had. Just because you want to talk about a zinger. Like, imagine your dad passing away and you finding out the news. Literally, introduce me, introduce you, and go. Like, right? They just got done introducing me, and Leonard had him on FaceTime, and I just seen him go like shit, right? And it just like, I had to like pull it together, motherfucker. Number one thing you do when you're training is there's so many things that can happen in a fight, and tides change, and you need to be able to train to beat somebody on your worst day, whether you be sick, tired, right? So I did everything right. Leading up to my fight, I knew that I put in the time, I ran the miles, like I didn't have to worry about the conditioning side, so I was able to push hard there. It was just the mental side of dealing with that news that second. So I remember I just took a moment, and I remember his words that he told me were like, "No matter what happens to me, you go and you fight. Like this is where you're destined to go. Like, do it. Do not worry about me." And
He was in an awful lot of trouble. And then one day his grandfather said, "I know what your problem is, but I need to tell you something. Every time you turn around, I'll be there." Well, then it kind of changed.
so that like helped ease everything if that makes any sense to you guys viewing. Like right now I have my grandma, which is my grandfather's wife, living with me. And I got a call a few days ago. She's come down here to die. So that news is very hard. But I now get to live every day with her like it's her last day until it's gone, right? So I get to embellish and love and be around her every day. Well, that's how it was for my grandpa, like my whole life growing up. So when I asked him all those questions, those were the moments that were most important to me. So when I took off and I trained, and I know he passed moments before I fought, red corner, which was me, walks first. Blue corner walks second. We both were in the cage. Bruce Buffer had just announced me, right? Fighting out of Broomfield, Colorado, Donald Cowboy, right? And I look over at Leonard because he's right behind. Like there was 4 of us, right? So I, out of the corner of my eye, because I knew he was on FaceTime, right? So I was looking back to see, like, give him and he just kind of had this, like, you know what I mean? Like I knew. I remember I just turned around and my eyes like glazed over, and maybe it helped because like the inner like, yeah, like I didn't know what to do. Like I couldn't just start crying, right? I couldn't, so I had to like just summons it. It was the craziest. Like I feel it right now. You know, like I'm getting jazzed up. But and then they had to announce him still. And they was like, "You ready? Yeah, you ready? Fuck yeah, I'm ready. Ring the bell." Like there has never been a fight to this day where they couldn't have ringed the bell sooner. Like fuck, go ring it, go. I'm ready. You know. So it was easier for me to just outtake it because I'd already been there mentally and been through all that. I wish I could explain the emotion ride that was, but not to mention it wasn't my first UFC fight ever. Lights, camera, action. I mean, you see people freeze and crazy and the adrenaline rush and how wild and crazy the emotions of just going onto the big stage and fighting for the first time, but then finding out your grandpa died. So it was victorious. I got it done. And I do remember dealing with it afterwards, like going back into the locker room and just kind of taking one of them showers where you just think and remember and just dealt with it all afterwards, right? For those of you that don't know and haven't followed me that far in my career, my grandma and grandpa have been to every one of my fights, ever.
Let's see, we went to England. We went to, I'm not sure, it wasn't Jamaica, but it was something like that. And we went to, I don't know if it was Japan or China or somewhere. I just they drugged me along and I just went. So, but his grandfather said he's worth saving.
Whether it was in Japan, whether it was Las Vegas, New York, it didn't matter. Kickboxing, MMA, like they were there front row, and they were the first people there. Like they'd be there at 5 o'clock, like just watching everybody. They loved it. So moving forward after that, like my grandma would still come. And for the first couple of fights, I still had a seat there that we would just leave empty for my grandpa. And it was cool. You know, it just didn't hit the same. Yeah, and I think, so to me, that was the most meaningful fight. One, because I didn't even think I worried about the back half. Like, this is UFC, your first. Like, it was just all about, this one's for you, Pops.